Hi there, this is Dad, and here are 3 creepy stories from the internet. Number 3. 10 years ago, I was returning home from a road trip with 2 friends. I received a phone call from my parents asking when we would be arriving, and I explained we were about 25 minutes away. About a minute later, we came around a bend. It was a full moon, and we could see the reflection of the lake below us, and other than that, the road was completely empty. Suddenly, everything went completely dark in the car. No lights, no dash gauges, or headlights on the road. The music stopped and restarted at the beginning of the CD we were listening to. There was now a vehicle pulled over by the police about a quarter mile in front of us that hadn't been there a split second ago. I assumed I had dozed off just for a second, as it was late. I thought it was still quite peculiar, although after about a minute, the driver of the car turned the music all the way down and said, "Did that just happen to anyone else?" The other passenger in the back seat sat forward and abruptly said, "I thought I just fell asleep," and then realized that the clock of the car was reading an hour later than it had just a minute before. To keep ourselves from freaking out, we decided the car had possibly had a momentary electrical failure and reset the clock to an odd time, turning off the dash lights, headlights, and gauges, and restarting the CD player. But when we arrived home 25 minutes later, we were about an hour late, and I'm missing an hour of my life. And to this day, I have no idea how it happened. Number 2. My dad had this little toy monkey that he used to call his favourite child, and tease me and my siblings with it. Not in a bad way, but it was really frustrating to us, and we spent hours trying to steal from him. Well, anyways, one day we finally got it and threw it in the garbage after drawing on it and mangling it for a little bit. My dad laughed and searched for a bit, but basically figured we'd thrown it out and gave up after a week or so. Anyways, a few years later, when I was about 17, I was walking down the street in Toronto. We don't live in Toronto, just visiting some friends. And we see this little orange object on the side of the road. When I walked over to it and picked up, it was the exact same forking monkey. It even had the black Sharpie lines on it from when we drew over it. I honestly cannot even come up with the chances of that happening, especially considering our garbage is sent to a local dump, nowhere near Toronto. And lastly, number 1. When I was a kid, me and my mum were outside taking pictures of some old cars to sell that were out in the backwoods area of our yard. All of a sudden, my mum hears this rustling in the bushes and she tells me to run. I had flip-flops on, so I kicked them off and booked it. Behind me, I didn't hear my mum, but I heard this rusty clank sound like something jumped on the cars. While running, I didn't see my mum. I got into the house and panicked. There she was, so just sitting at the table reading the paper. What the hell? Anyway, I have gone and asked my mum again, but this has been many years and I'm an adult now. When I asked her, she looked at me funny and said she didn't remember any of it at all, just the cars in the back were sold. Has anything like this happened to you? If so, let me know down in the comments.